Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel and day 1300 of the daily content grind. Welcome in for this small milestone episode of this channel. So I figured for 1300, let's do something a little bit more special. And thankfully, we have a new item that has got a lot of people talking. It is a brand new Masterpiece Optimus Prime from the MPG edition of Masterpiece. This is the Style Gen edition. Now, we talked about it a little bit on the news roundup, but a lot more pictures have come in. There's more explanation as to what this thing is and why this thing is. And also, we still need to ask why. The big thing here is, why does it exist? Because this seems redundant, right? This seems like something done as like a safe release, you know, because I don't think MPG has gone well so far, at least from my perspective. The train bots have like a lukewarm reception at best. We're getting more Diaclone repaints, and like this is really the first offering outside of like Rat Trap that really promises something of an old MP experience, but it's weird. It's a weird one, as if they're actually trying to do something. It's just like a safe bet. You know, MPG is a little rough right now. Let's do an Optimus Prime. That'll get us back on track. And then they do a weird one. But we have more photos. We have more explanation now. So let's actually dig into exactly the nuts and bolts of this thing. And we'll kind of examine as we go, why does this thing exist? Why are we getting another Masterpiece toy? I think for a lot of us, it's the fact that we're getting a new Masterpiece Optimus Prime when we still have the likes of, Jazz and Mirage, and a bunch of the mini-bots. Any mini-bot that isn't Bumblebee. We've got so much room in Masterpiece for so many characters and designs that have not seen the light of day yet, and we're all just kind of like tapping our watches collectively and going, when? And then we see time, budget, and allocation going to a fourth Masterpiece Optimus Prime. So that's the kind of the crux of this whole debate right now. It's like, why him? Why now? So, why did we need it? That's the other thing. Why did we need it? So, let's, for starters, we'll take a look at the slides, the new images that Takara put out, the official stock photography, and the vehicle mode already looks a little bit off, right? Like, it's Optimus Prime, unmistakable Optimus Prime, red cab, blue rear, silver stripes, etc., all that's there. You look at things like the odd angle to the side windows, which is kind of superfluous. I'm not entirely sure why those are there. You get to see, there's a little bit of blue on the back side of the cab, which is more, 07 Optimus Prime, or like the Evasion model, And then the rear section itself, like you're used to having like a top to it. Like you're used to having those wheels covered. Not on this Prime. So it's presenting a different visual in the vehicle mode. Not too unfamiliar, but different styles and different primes of the past are creeping in a little bit. And dare I say, it does look a little less refined, and it does look a little bit cheaper. I can see his robot mode thighs plain as day. And that's always my indication of an Optimus Prime that isn't fully cooked. Can I see the thighs in the vehicle mode? Do the legs compress to hide them, or double fold to bury the thighs? Or, is there some paneling that closes that area up? No. If it's just the thighs there, I kind of start getting suspicious about how much engineering has actually gone into this toy. Now, thankfully, we know how much is going on because Takara released a video that shows us the transformation. So you can go through it yourself. I'm just going to show you a few clips here just to kind of show what is going on during the transformation. There's standard stuff here. The windows have to open for transformation. MPs in the past have had to do that. Arms come out from the side as usual. You can see panels from the side of the vehicle folding down into the arms. fake grill comes up. The top grill folds into the chest, and then it looks like that bumper is actually going to house the Matrix Annex once you actually have the whole thing in robot mode. We've seen things akin to that in Masterpiece before, so that's not a terribly unfamiliar way of handling, where do I put all of Prime's vehicle bulk and still have a spot for the Matrix? That seems to be a go-to solution. A side profile later on, we can see a little bit more of how this works. Looks like the torso section comes together on a back hinge. We've seen that in Optimus Primes before as well. And the front vehicles fold up into the body. We have the back panel from the cab folding over to form the rest of the legs. And that is how Optimus Prime toys from the movie lines especially have formed up in the past. So it's a little bit of that DNA creeping in. There's some cleanup as well. You can see how much the thighs fold up. The gas canisters fold up completely into the thigh. So you can see how that works. The lower torso spins around 180 degrees, and then everything kind of like closes up until you get that. So already, it's not terribly complicated. I dare say that feels like Generations level engineering. If Generations did another Optimus Prime that was just cab only at leader size, I would expect the transformation to go very akin to that. It does feel derivative in a sense. Like, it doesn't feel like MP magical. It just kind of feels like upscale Generation style engineering, which is a little bit odd for Masterpiece. Now, there's probably a point to that, and we'll get to that point in a little bit. Let's keep examining the toy for starters. The articulation level does seem to be Masterpiece level. I'll tell you, the fingers are articulated. They are hinged. You can see he seems to have butterfly joints in the torso. That's always cool to see. Great knee bend range, ankle tilt is there. Rotation in the torso. All that seems to work out fine. The weaponry had me confused on this guy really badly, because we're used to seeing him with the axe, but then he also has the axe from Siege Optimus Prime. And yeah, if I keep looking at this guy, there is a little bit of Siege to him. I'll show you that in the next slide. But as it stands, like, 2 Energon axes is weird. Coming with axes from other Optimus Primes is weird. Remember, this is the axe that also folds up into a shield for him as well. Again, odd. We take a look at the next slide, we start seeing a little bit more of this, Siege identity here. He does come with the blades from movie Optimus Prime. There's apparently a way to mount his ion cannon as a shoulder gun. Haven't seen that before. You can also see across this toy, as you start staring at this toy, you're going to notice ports that seem familiar, and they look like 5mm ports like you would see on a toy like Siege or a modern Generations figure that has lots of mounting points for weapons. The back side of his shoulders, for instance, has that. The side extends backward. And I know I've seen that on a Prime toy recently, but I can't remember offhand which one did it. Point being, again, design elements taken from other figures, and now play pattern as well, as they're seemingly trying to work Generations, modular weapon placement into a Masterpiece release. I'll tell you, it also looks like the side of his elbow has a 5mm port as well. So more mounting points. Probably something in the vehicle. Did I just skip past all here? Now I gotta double check. Now I gotta go all the way back because it's bugging me. Okay, I don't see him in the vehicle mode. I do see ports in the back of the vehicle mode though. I do see him in the back of the vehicle, but that serves another purpose, and I'll get to that here in a minute too. There is the Matrix and how it works. That is absolutely the front bumper of the vehicle mode. Also, in this one, you can see things that are a little bit unusual for how an Optimus Prime is engineered. For instance, we have the windshield, the side windshield from the vehicle mode that is now the underside of the forearm. That's a little different. Now, the arms do come up from the same section, like what would eventually become the mid section, the waist, So this is just a weird panel placement thing. You can also see where like there's paneling to fold up into the front of his shoulders. As you can see, they are elevated here with a double hinged just below the Autobot symbol. And and as I was going to point out, the front bumper of the vehicle mode is absolutely where the Matrix is hidden. That is it opened up. It is clever usage, I'll give it that. Here's the weird thing. So all of those ports in the vehicle mode's rear section are kind of in line with the ports that are in the robot mode, because this Optimus Prime is capable of storing all of his weapons at the same time. Keep in mind, the only Optimus Primes you can do that with besides him are the Primes that come with trailers. And let's be honest, a lot of it is because you can just throw things into the trailer like a storage box, because it technically is. This is the first one without a trailer that can actually do that. Okay. So, again, similar to the engineering style and similar to the port system that I'm seeing all across this toy, Generations style engineering and sensibilities are in this toy that is called a masterpiece. And that's kind of a fascinating twist to me, because we've had this discussion before where the Generations line is getting so good at rendering characters from the cartoons and movies that just look like the characters they're supposed to be, that it's almost making Masterpiece seem obsolete and kind of elitist by comparison. Masterpiece is one thing when, you're looking at your array of Transformers and, like, there's always some, like, oddity to them, Like, oh, you can get Universe 2.0 Sideswipe. He looks kind of funny because he's eventually gonna, because they had to retool him from Sunstreaker. Because of the weird, innovative but weird transformation step. When you're dealing with that versus your cartoon accurate, and like super upgraded version of the original toy take on Sideswipe and Masterpiece, that's one thing. Like there's a very big divergence between how those two toy lines look and function. But now you're looking at retail release stuff that is on par or sometimes even cleaner than Masterpiece. 86 Optimus Prime basically accomplishes what the Masterpiece Optimus 3.0 does at a far smaller price point, and it scales with all of your existing generation stuff. And taking a look at things like that, I feel like that is a really important thing to factor in here. So, yeah, like it feels like Generations has caught up so much that even Masterpiece toys are kind of taking in Generations sensibilities when it comes to designs, especially this one where the Prime gets to be a little bit different in shape and exaggeration and detail. It's not beholden to any one single depiction. And that's another point we need to get back to. Just to finish off the slides, there is a list of all the accessories that you are going to be receiving. I'm not entirely sure what some of these parts are, because there's no clear shot of them, but that's basically what you get. It's a bunch of accessories Primes normally don't come with, at least not Masterpiece. So all of this is still bringing me back to the question of why? Why do we have this one? Like, why isn't this just some like oddball T-Spark release, right? Like the Lio Convoy. Well, let's see here. So you have the gold standard, the MP10, Masterpiece Optimus / Convoy 2.0. And this is just like a perfect iteration of Optimus Prime if it evolved from the original toy. And it still holds up. Like, yes, the engineering has aged, but it's still a really, really good toy. And you go like, well, why didn't we just do this? Like, this is a nice Optimus Prime. They have this, right? You can just release it again? Well, yes and no. They probably could, but number one, this toy's had over a dozen releases. And if all those designer ones had come out like they originally planned, like all those weird camo repaints, like this one would have been like almost 20 releases for one Masterpiece mold. Even at over a dozen, I'm willing to bet I'm willing to bet the mold for this is just a heap by now. They would probably have to recast the figure from scratch at this point. But also, back to the point, yeah, the engineering is definitely aged, and there's always been people who've kind of been detractors to this, because the proportions are a little bit off. I always feel like it's the best, just like pure toy masterpiece. But what about the MP44? Like the super nice cartoon accurate one that's like super complex and super accurate in robot mode. And I'm like, yeah, comparatively, that one has barely been touched. We got the full release and the individual cab release. We got the Black Convoy, we got Nemesis, we got the Shattered Glass, and that's it. They've only used that mold 4 times. Well, what's stopping them from doing it again? Okay, true, and that's where I kind of like scratch my head a little bit. Like, this mold seems like ripe for re-releasing. There's tons of repaints this toy has never gotten. I think back to it, I kind of sit and look at it and stare at it and go, maybe this is just cost prohibitive, because it is an incredibly complicated mold. Also, it's one of those toys that proves that it's possible to get an animation accurate Optimus Prime out of something that looks like the brick semi-truck from the G1 toy line, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good toy to play with, Some people like the super complex transformations. I personally don't. I like a nice middle ground, something that's engaging, but not overly simple. And that's kind of why I skipped this figure. Like, it is cost prohibitive. It was over $400 for the trailer version. I think even cab only was over like $250 at first retail, somewhere around $250. It's crazy. And that's out of budget for a lot of people. Okay, so it's a budgetary thing or it's a complication thing. Okay, what about this? We just got Masterpiece Jinrai. And let's be honest here, for a lot of people, this was to scratch the Optimus Prime itch. Jinrai was done back in the day because they wanted to do a new Optimus Prime. Either Takara wanted to do it or Hasbro wanted to do it. Most likely Hasbro designed a new Optimus Prime, and then Takara had to figure out what to do with it. Because in the fiction, Optimus Prime is dead, and in Japan, the thing to do was to constantly cycle characters. So, one leader character, or one character in general, did not last longer than a year. So they didn't want to retread Optimus. They came up with Jinrai instead. Fictionally never quite explained very well why he looks like Optimus Prime so much, but the toy is intended to be Optimus, one way or another, however you view it. So this did scratch the itch, and this is recent. And I think, like, for around the cost of MP44 on his own, I got the full thing, trailer and all, super combo. It's not an overly complex figure. I would still call it, enjoyable to mess with and play with. It's a really, really solid toy outside of, a few QC issues. I'm still not convinced the MPG thing, the whole relabeling, I'm still not convinced that isn't just, a smoke screen for, like, covering up how many QC issues MP started to have. A little bit of damage control. But still, like, when we have so many convoys at our disposal, why do a brand new one? Especially one that doesn't really seem to go for anything Optimus has ever been before. Why do essentially a brand new design in Masterpiece? And I got to think about it, and like, the complexity come up, the cost came up. And the more I think about it, the more I realize it's this, but for Masterpiece. I wasn't going to put Authentics, because Authentics is made to be as cheap as possible. No, this had actual budget and effort put into it. The Cyber Battalion toys we talked about on this channel, they are surprisingly good considering they were supposed to be dirt cheap to produce and very large as a result. But that's what the point was. It was supposed to fill this gap. Is it as complicated as a mainline Generations figure? Absolutely not. But it's big, it's simple to play with, and it still is a fun toy. And that's kind of where this Masterpiece, MPG 17 kind of lives. In this in-between space of it's affordable, but it still feels like a high quality production, which is probably why Generations kind of feels like it's leaking its way into the design, because it does feel like it's been budgeted in a similar way. So ultimately, like, I feel like that's why it exists. You know, it's a simple answer. I will admit, I didn't have to explain this toy to you for 20 minutes just to get to the point of, well, it's so we have Masterpiece level size and articulation without the overly complex design that will, inflate the price. I could have gotten to that way quicker. That could have been a YouTube short. But I like to examine, I like to deep dive. I also like to speculate, because I feel like, because they've marked it as Style Gen, this ain't the only one they're doing. This ain't the only one they're doing. See, this opens the door to characters using design elements or even weaponry and accessories of other versions that they've had throughout the years, and being at a Masterpiece scale and articulation level without necessarily having the overly complex transformations the line started to be known for. Opens the door for a Masterpiece Megatron tank. I guarantee you, Style Gen, if this Optimus Prime takes off, and it will because it's an Optimus Prime and it's not horribly unaffordable, this is going to lead to some weird figures coming out. A sound wave that is not a tape player, a Megatron that is not a gun. Things that otherwise wouldn't have been possible for Masterpiece before. This is a door opening figure. This is Takara trying to get the gate to fly open so they can do whatever they want with Masterpiece. Obviously, we've still got cartoon accurate toys on the way. The Rat Trap is proof of that. We've always got like the rumors of everything else that's on the way. Hope for more Beast Wars. Hope to fill out the G1 cast. Hope to fill out the 84 cast. Where's my Reflector? But this kind of shows you where they could go. A Style Gen Megatron would not shock me. A Style Gen Soundwave would not shock me. Style Gen Grimlock, Style Gen Starscream. This is unlimited possibilities. So don't think of it as, you can think of it as Masterpiece Light, or you can think of it as Generations Extreme. But that's kind of where it lives. And I guess, yeah, given that, honestly, if I had to choose, I'd rather buy this than MP44. The cost, the complexity, I'd rather my toys be at a level where they're fun to mess with. I think that's what they're going for. So, we will see if this actually works out for them and how this toy feels when it is actually released. So, heads up. We'll keep you informed in the news roundups as we find out more about the toy, and as people start getting it in hand, we find out exactly what the deal is. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.